Welcome back. Today we are looking at the 2008 tearjerker, Red. The film opens with our main character Avery Ludlow as he is sleeping in bed with his best boy, Red. Red decides it's time to wake up in the only way he knows how. Avery and Red head out for a nice day of fishing. He heads over to Ludlow's general store to pick up some supplies from Emma. She gives goodest boy Red a bone and is covering the store so Avery can go fishing. It's a beautiful day at the lake, just Avery and Red fishing. Three teens come up and ask if Avery is getting any bites. Avery tells them he's caught a few and they can check it out if they would like. The teens tell Avery they wish they had his luck, and Avery tells them it's not luck, the deer could smell the oil from the gun and got scared. One of the boys starts asking Avery about Red, commenting on how old he is. He then asks Avery how much money he has while aiming the gun at Red. One of the teens appears hesitant about the whole thing. Red starts to bark at the teens. The teen known as Danny now aims the gun at Avery, telling him to reel in his bait and set the rod down. Avery offers him the keys to his truck. Danny then takes the shotgun and fires it at Red, the bastard. He then says, "He's Red now, isn't he?" Laughing all the while. The teens leave with one of them named Harold clearly in distraught at what just occurred. Avery in distress comforts Red. He carries Red back up the hill to his truck. Placing Red in his truck, he realizes his best friend is gone, burying him that night in the backyard. The following day Avery daydreams, hearing the sounds of Red as a puppy playing with his children. Avery is in his basement looking at a book of rifles. He calls a local gun store asking if they carry the shells used on Red. They don't, but the owner Dean tells him to try another store down the street. Avery enters the second store and asks if they sold the gun to the teen that shot Red. The man working the register tells him he can't help him. The manager however tells him to check the ledger, after Avery tells them what happened. The man returns telling Avery the name of the teen who bought the gun is Danny. Avery heads over to Danny's house. Mrs. McCormick answers the door, looking nervous. Avery tells Mr. McCormick what happened and he doesn't seem to believe Avery. Danny's father believes Avery just wants money, but Avery wants justice. He asks what evidence Avery has. Danny enters and his father asks if they know Avery and of course he says no. His father tells him that Avery told him he tried to rob him and shot his dog. Danny claims he didn't, the lying scumbag. His father doesn't believe Avery, saying he has a couple good boys that would never do it. Avery thanks Harold for not telling Danny about his expensive fishing gear as they could have fetched a couple hundred for it. The father has had enough, but Avery tells him he knows his boys did what they did. Avery meets with Sam, a lawyer in town. Sam tells him they can't prove attempted robbery and at most they can claim cruelty to animals that would fetch a $100 fine. Sam tells him there really isn't much they can do. Avery says Red was a gift to him from his wife for his 50th birthday and the boys made a joke about killing him. Avery heads to work and Emma asks him where Red is. He tells her what the boys did to him. She is in complete shock. Sam calls Avery the next day and tells him that they may be able to prosecute the boys. He tells him he may have found out who the third boy was too, naming him Pete. Avery heads over to Pete's house, a rundown dump. He speaks to Pete's father who says his son got a call from Danny, so he knows who he is. He claims his son was just out hanging with his friends and was nowhere near Avery or Red. Avery tells them he would be willing to forgive Pete if he would call the sheriff and tell them what Danny did. Avery meets with Sam and a reporter named Carrie at a diner. Sam tells Avery they're trying to make Avery out to be a cranky old man that has a grudge against Danny. Carrie wants to report on what happened, this way the prosecutors will have no choice but to do something. Avery is worried about slander, but is told they won't use any names. Avery brings them down to the spot they were fishing and goes over what happened. That night Carrie brings over a TV so he can watch the report. Avery watches the report and looks sad. He doesn't think it will do any good but he appreciates the effort. A rock is thrown through his window with a note attached. The report has ruffled some feathers. The following day Sam tells them the DA still won't prosecute. Sam says they can still sue and Avery is adamant they push forward. Carrie gets a call from her editor telling her to drop the story. At a bar, Avery and Carrie are enjoying some drinks and talking. She asks him what he wants out of life and he says, the truth. He tells her when he lost his wife all he had left was the house, the store and Red. Back at his house, Carrie asks him about his sons. Avery tells her a horrible story about how his eldest son burned his youngest alive and murdered his wife. The following day, Avery is watching the teens that murdered good boy Red from his truck. The following day, Harold meets with Avery at his truck. He tells Avery he wants to say sorry for what they did to his dog. Avery says he expects Harold to confess to the police and stop covering for his brother. At Mr. McCormick's house, Avery says he needs to stop using his money to cover for his sons. Mr. McCormick tells him if he's going to sue then do it, but if he continues following his boys he'll have the sheriff after him. Avery watches the boys as they play baseball and Danny clearly has some anger issues. He meets with the boys and Danny tells him to stop following them. He tricks Danny into attacking him with a bat, and tells him he now has witnesses all over the street that saw what he did. Avery is having some drinks at the bar when the bartender gets a call for him. He tells Avery his store has caught fire. Avery heads over to find his store ablaze. The next day, Avery tells Sam he knows who did it, but Sam says the boys were at a party and had airtight alibis. All except for Pete. Avery talks to Pete's parents and they claim he was at the party. He notices the out-of-work parents are suddenly having work done to their house and that it doesn't come cheap, implying they were paid to torch the store. Carrie is at his place and tells him they aren't going to use his store burning as a story either. Carrie tries pushing for it, but instead they transferred her to another city. Avery arrives at the McCormack's cabin with the body of Red, telling the mother the boy's father needs to see this. Mr. McCormick comes out with the boys and a gun. Avery tells them he's not there about the store or the rock, but about his dog Red. He lays the body on the porch. Danny gets angry and shoots at Avery, hitting his ear. They wrestle and Avery grabs the gun and tells Mr. McCormick to put his gun down. He's got the gun pointed at Danny and says he's bringing his boy into the police for shooting him in the ear. He ushers Danny into the truck and tells him he's driving. Danny asks if it would help if he said sorry and Avery tells him it's a tad too late for apologies. Danny's father chases after them and rams the truck off the road. Avery wakes up that night with a dog staring at him. He makes his way back to the cabin where Harold is outside. Avery has returned to grab Red. Harold tells him they'll kill him and to leave. Avery just wants his dog back. Harold takes Avery back where they put Red's body, but his father and boys are ready and waiting with guns. Harold yells at his father telling him this is enough and to just stop. Danny says this ends now and shoots Avery. There's a shootout and Avery hits Danny and his father. Harold is hit in the crossfire and Avery comforts him, but he passes. Avery checks on Danny and tells him he'll send someone. He talks to the father and tells him, "Do you see what you did?" Next we see Avery on crutches, with Sam helping him rebury Red. Avery is reading the paper and there's an article about the ordeal he went through written by Carrie. He packs away Red's bed and dog food bowl in a tote. Carrie meets up with Avery and asks what he thinks of the article. Avery blames himself saying he just couldn't let things go and 2 boys are dead. Carrie runs to the car and brings Avery a puppy. He doesn't want it, saying he's too old. The puppy enters the house and looks up at Avery. He pulls out a bowl and some dog food for the pup. Avery smiles and asks the dog what he should call him as the movie ends. If you enjoyed this video and would like more, please like and subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when another video drops. Thank you for watching and take care.